The sun had just begun to rise, casting a soft golden glow over the dusty terrain. President Ibrahim Traoré stood beside his black SUV, sipping tea quietly. Today, he was scheduled to visit a rural youth center, a beacon of hope in a region where many young people struggled with unemployment and disillusionment. Hundreds of them were waiting in the village square, the air already alive with the sound of drums, flags fluttering, and speeches ready to be delivered. But the presidential convoy was running late. A tall, confident man named Idrissa, one of the president's most trusted advisors, approached. "Sir," he said, glancing at his watch, "if we take the main road, we'll arrive 2 hours late. But there's a shortcut through the bush, quiet, remote, no towns. We'll be there in 40 minutes. President Ibrahim raised an eyebrow. "Is the road secure?" "Yes, sir," Idrissa replied quickly. "Our men cleared it yesterday. I personally oversaw the sweep." Karim, one of the bodyguards, stepped forward. His face was tight with concern. "I don't like that road," he said. "Too quiet. Too exposed." "But Idrissa insists." Ibrahim took a deep breath and looked toward the rising sun. They were burning daylight, fuel was limited, and the youth were waiting. "Fine," he said. "We'll take the shortcut." The convoy rolled out, 5 vehicles in total, 2 armed trucks leading, the president's SUV in the center, and 2 more behind. The road was narrow, the terrain dry and cracked, flanked by waist-high grass. No homes. No smoke. No people. Silence. 30 minutes passed. All seemed calm. Then it appeared. A large brown cow stood directly in the middle of the dirt road. Its horns were chipped, its eyes calm, and it showed no signs of moving. The lead truck honked. Soldiers shouted. Still, the cow did not budge. "Strange," one of the guards muttered. "Let's just push it aside." 2 soldiers stepped out and tried to guide it with sticks. The cow took one slow step back, then returned to its exact position. President Ibrahim, now alert, rolled down his window. "Why hasn't it moved?" he asked. Karim shrugged. "It's acting strange." "Try going around it," Idrissa said sharply. "We're wasting time." But something didn't feel right. Ibrahim stared at the cow again. It wasn't scared. It wasn't confused. It was intentional. "Stop the car," he ordered. "Send a man to check under it." "Sir," Idrissa said, laughing nervously, "it's just a cow." "I said check the ground." 2 soldiers crept forward. One knelt near the cow's front legs and studied the dirt. Then he recoiled. "Sir," he shouted, "there's something here." Everyone froze. The soldier pointed to the soil, half buried, nearly invisible, was a thin wire. It led to something metallic. A landmine. Gasps rang through the convoy. Karim barked orders. Soldiers rushed to cordon the area. Within minutes, they discovered not 1, but 3 landmines, wired together, placed precisely where the president's SUV would have passed. President Ibrahim stepped out, slowly, his eyes never leaving the cow. Then he turned to Idrissa. "You said this road was cleared yesterday?" "Yes, sir," Idrissa stammered, sweat gathering on his brow. "Our security teams." Karim knelt beside the wire. "Fresh tracks," he said. "Boot prints. The ground still soft. These were planted very recently." Ibrahim narrowed his eyes. Someone had known they'd take this road. He glanced again at Idrissa. His advisor was fidgeting. Avoiding eye contact. Twitching. "We were supposed to go through Kadigu," the president said. "Why did you insist on this route?" I just thought it would save time," Idrissa muttered. Karim's voice was low but firm. "This road isn't even on the official travel plan. And he claimed to personally oversee the sweep. Then another man arrived. Commander Siku, head of security operations. He had ridden in on a motorbike with backup troops. "Sir," he whispered privately to Ibrahim. "We caught one of Idris's men trying to send a location ping. We traced it. Satellite uplink. Belongs to a private foreign military contractor." Ibrahim's expression darkened. He turned back toward the convoy. The cow was still standing. Still watching. Then, as if its duty was complete, it stepped aside and walked into the bush. Silent. Graceful. Untouched. Nobody followed it. Nobody could explain it. But everyone understood it. That cow had saved the president's life. As the cow disappeared into the bush, its calm presence still lingered like a spirit in the dust. President Ibrahim stood in the silence, a stillness gripping the road, every soldier alert, every eye scanning. The illusion of safety had been shattered. "Search every inch of this road," Ibrahim ordered, his voice sharp as steel. "Every root, every tree. And arrest Idrissa. Do not let him speak to anyone." The command shot through the convoy like lightning. Guards closed in. Idrissa's eyes widened. "Mr. President, wait. I swear, I don't know. You insisted on this road. You said it was safe. You looked me in the eye and lied," Ibrahim said. He stepped close, his voice dropping to a low, chilling tone. "But that cow saved me before you could kill me." Idrissa's mouth opened, but no words came. Two soldiers grabbed him, dragged him to the back vehicle. His protests vanished under the roar of the engine as the convoy reversed slowly, retracing its path under full military escort. The landmines were marked. Drones were deployed overhead. In the skies above Burkina Faso, an invisible war had begun. Back at the capital, a storm was brewing. Ibrahim said little on the ride home. He stared out the window, jaw tight, mind racing. He had faced coups, bullets, and rebellion. But this? A man he trusted had led him into a trap, and nature had intervened. At intelligence headquarters, Idrissa was handcuffed in a cold room, sweat streaming down his temples. Commander Siku stood across from him, holding a stack of documents. "We traced your phone," Siku said coldly. "You deleted the GPS logs, but our techs recovered them." He dropped a file on the table. Idrissa flinched. "It shows you stopped at the exact ambush site, 2 days ago. Alone. No security." "I was checking the route," Idrissa mumbled. "Needed air." "Enough lies." Siku slammed the table. "Who paid you? Who told you to guide the president down that road?" Silence. Siku narrowed his eyes, then nodded to a technician behind the glass. A screen lit up. Grainy night footage from a hidden villager's drone. It showed Idrissa, hooded, speaking to a man in military boots, his face obscured. The stranger handed Idrissa something. A satellite phone. Siku dropped a matching device on the table. "We found it under your seat. You forgot to destroy it." Idrissa's hands trembled. His lips parted, voice cracking. "They said, it wouldn't kill him. Just scare him. Make him afraid. Easier to control. I didn't mean for anyone to die." "Who is they?" Siku growled. "I don't know names." Idrissa gasped. "Foreigners. Private military firms. They said, if Traoré keeps rising, Western interests will collapse. He's uniting Africa. They can't allow that." Siku stepped back in stunned silence. "You sold your country for fear and dollars." That evening, President Ibrahim sat alone in his office. A file sat open before him, photos, phone logs, maps, GPS coordinates. But his eyes were fixed on a single drone image. The cow. It stood in the exact center of the road, above the mine, between life and death. He didn't look away for a long time. Siku entered quietly. "We've confirmed it," he said. "Foreign contractor. American link. Idrissa was recruited weeks ago." Ibrahim finally asked, "Do we know where the cow came from?" "We asked all the nearby villages. No one owns it. Doesn't match any herds. It just appeared." Ibrahim let out a faint smile. "And vanished when the job was done." Siku nodded. "Sir, permission to speak freely?" "Go ahead." "That was not just an animal." "I know," Ibrahim said softly. "And I don't take it lightly." He stood. "There are enemies in suits. Enemies with pens. Enemies with microphones. But now, they've seen something they can't explain." He turned toward Siku. "Prepare a message. I want the world to know, Africa's path is not guided by fear. It is guarded by something greater." He looked back at the drone image. "Even if that something has 4 legs and horns." 2 days had passed since the landmines were discovered. Across Burkina Faso, whispers grew louder. Had a cow truly saved the president's life? Was it luck or divine protection? The streets of Ouagadougou buzzed with questions, but President Ibrahim Traoré remained silent. His silence was not fear. It was strategy. Because deep inside the presidential palace, he now understood, if Idrissa was the leak, someone else had supported him. Landmines like those weren't placed without precise timing and coordinates. Someone from within the palace had to have provided real-time tracking. That betrayal ran deeper than expected. So, Ibrahim called a secret meeting with 4 men he trusted: Commander Siku, his cyber surveillance chief, his head of military operations, and 2 elite analysts. "I want every device scanned," Ibrahim said. "Phones, radios, cameras. Every staff member's access logs. We missed something." They began that night. The operation was codenamed Mirror. By morning, they had found it. A tablet belonging to one of the palace's logistics officers, Lieutenant Twamba, contained encrypted files, hidden deep within seemingly innocent directories. One folder, labeled Giraffe Track V5, contained detailed live GPS data from the president's convoy. It tracked Ibrahim's every move. Each turn, each stop, up until the exact moment the cow blocked the road. "He was streaming your location in real time," the cyber chief said. "Like a video game." Lieutenant Twamba was arrested on the spot. In interrogation, he confessed easily. "They promised me a new life," he said. "Money. A foreign visa. They told me Traoré would be replaced. It was already arranged." "Who are they?" Siku asked. Twamba hesitated, then muttered, "A man with a foreign accent. American, I think. He worked with a firm called Langley Group Support." Siku froze. A known private military company, often linked to covert destabilization campaigns across Africa and the Middle East. The implications were massive. This wasn't just an inside job. It was an international operation. Back in his quarters, President Ibrahim sat with his journal open. He wrote a single line. "They tried to end my life with my own people, but something greater stood in their way." That night, he made a decision that would shake the world. A last-minute national broadcast was scheduled. At 8 p.m. sharp, President Ibrahim Traoré appeared live on every screen in Burkina Faso. The air across West Africa stood still. In Mali, Niger, and Guinea, millions watched. Even across Europe and North America, embassies tuned in. The president was calm. His eyes were sharp. "I was nearly killed this week," he began. "Not by war. Not by rebels. But by people in suits. People who smile while wiring our roads with explosives." He paused. They sent men into our palace. They bought our brothers. They plotted my death using my own route, my own advisor, my own GPS logs. He leaned forward. But they failed, because a simple animal stood in their way. He waited. Yes. A cow. Gasps. Laughter. Confusion. And then, silence again. That cow did more than save my life. It exposed betrayal. It exposed a network of enemies. And when the world sees that even nature won't let me fall, they'll understand something deeper. His fist slammed the table. We are not a people you can control. He stood. From this day, any foreign military base, contractor, or spy agency on our soil must leave. Immediately. Gasps echoed across the region, even through television screens. He added one final line before walking off screen. I know your names. I have your messages. I won't just survive your plots. I will expose them. The screen faded to black. The reaction was instant. All across Burkina Faso, people filled the streets in celebration. Social media exploded with hashtags. Artists painted murals of cows with golden horns. Schoolchildren reenacted the story. The cow became a symbol, a legend. Across West Africa, people whispered in reverence, the cow that saved the president. But far beyond Ouagadougou, across the ocean, inside a secured boardroom of a military contractor, 3 foreign men watched the broadcast again and again. He wasn't supposed to survive, the American muttered, slamming the table. We tracked him live. That road was clear. A $3 million operation, ruined, by a cow. The British man leaned forward, voice cold. There's only one explanation. We underestimated him. They pulled out a new plan. No more landmines. This time, it would be quiet. Back in Burkina Faso, the winds were changing. President Ibrahim Traoré, now hailed as a lion across the continent, worked silently in the halls of power. He hadn't slept more than 4 hours in days. Maps, intercepted messages, and internal audits littered his office. The attempted ambush had exposed much, but he knew it was only the beginning. They will try again, he told Commander Siku. And so, Operation Mirror expanded. Foreign embassies were quietly monitored. Private contractors had their clearances revoked. Embassy personnel were reshuffled. Even palace staff were rotated weekly, with background checks refreshed. But the enemies abroad weren't idle. They knew brute force had failed. Landmines had missed. Surveillance had been uncovered. It was time for something quieter. 3 days later, a foreign peace delegation arrived at the palace. 4 officials. Friendly smiles. Polished shoes. They brought gifts from the embassy, books, electronics, and a sleek wooden box of custom tea from the Alps. The meeting was scheduled for 11:30 a.m. But President Ibrahim had prepared. He had received an anonymous tip from an unlikely source, a cattle herder from Bobo Dioulasso. The young man had gone to the mosque and told the imam something strange. One of my cows disappeared for 2 days, he said. It returned with burned hair on its leg, and red paint on its horn. I think it's the cow. The one that stood on the road. Word reached the palace. Ibrahim ordered the cow to be brought in quietly under full military escort. It arrived the next evening, led by the herder himself. The animal was calm, docile, just like it had been that day. Samples were taken. Blood. Fur. Dust from its hooves. The results were strange. Traces of human blood. Old, dried, but real. Not from the cow itself. Siku leaned forward. Someone bled near it. Maybe tried to harm it. Maybe, it stopped more than just the president's convoy. Ibrahim nodded slowly. And now they try again. Back in the palace, the peace delegation sat in the waiting room, sipping water. Laughter filled the air. Then the doors burst open. Elite soldiers poured in. "Don't move." Guns were raised. One diplomat reached for his coat, he was slammed to the marble floor. Another tried to speak but was quickly restrained. The tea box was seized. Inside, beneath a false bottom, soldiers found a sleek black device, a bracelet with a tiny injector needle. Lab tests confirmed it. The device was laced with a fast-acting cardiac toxin. Designed to inject through a handshake. Just one touch. 60 seconds. Death guaranteed. One of the detained men, sweating and defeated, whispered under interrogation. "We tried everything. Pressure. Bribery. Landmines. Poison. But he always survives." How? How does he always survive? Sekou didn't blink. Because he fights for people. Not power. And sometimes, even animals fight with him. That night, President Ibrahim took the podium once again. The entire continent tuned in. "They called us weak," he said. "But the weak do not survive assassination plots. The weak do not survive betrayal. The weak do not survive landmines and poison." He leaned into the camera. "Today we buried more than an operation. We buried the idea that Africa cannot protect its own." The people erupted. Streets filled with cheers. Children painted murals of cows standing against tanks. Across Mali, Niger, Guinea, Senegal. Even distant cities in the diaspora, poets called it the divine cow of resistance. But President Ibrahim knew something deeper. The war had changed form. It was no longer a war of bullets. It was a war of perception. Of whispers. Of influence. So, he convened a final meeting, only 5 people in the room, Commander Sekou, Karim the bodyguard, the intelligence chief, and 2 respected spiritual leaders. "What we face now is not physical," Ibrahim began. "It is psychological. It is spiritual. A war of pressure, fear, and infiltration." One of the imams spoke, "That cow didn't just block a mine. It revealed the snakes in your palace." Karim added, "The people trust you. But the enemies aren't done." So, Ibrahim outlined the final phase of Operation Mirror. Every foreign diplomat would be tracked. Every internal staffer would be screened weekly. Every attack, whether a landmine or a handshake, would be responded to with public truth. No more silence. Every betrayal would become a story. Every secret would become a speech. And within weeks, something unprecedented began to happen. Foreign military contractors fled the country. Spy networks stopped functioning. Bribery attempts were exposed live on television. The nation was turning into a mirror, reflecting every scheme back at its origin. And still, the cow remained. Back in a quiet enclosure outside the palace, it grazed peacefully. It didn't know it was a hero. It didn't know that schoolchildren drew it in notebooks. That welders were already building a life-size statue of it using retired military scrap. All it had done was stand still. At the right place. At the right time. Weeks passed. Operation Mirror had reshaped the palace and much of Burkina Faso's diplomatic posture. The whispers that once crept through the corridors of power now exploded in every marketplace, every school, every radio show. Burkina Faso was no longer being played, it was playing back. Western embassies sent quiet requests for dialogue. No response came. Diplomatic staff were reshuffled or removed. And President Ibrahim Traoré remained quiet, watching, listening, waiting. But even in silence, power radiated from his every move. Foreign intelligence operatives now spoke cautiously about the man they had tried to eliminate. Not only had he survived, he had turned their weapons into legends. And at the center of that legend stood a silent animal. A cow. In a garden behind the palace, a statue now stood. It was made of melted-down military scrap. Welders had shaped it carefully, broad shoulders, proud stance, gentle eyes. On its bronze base, a plaque read. It stood when the world wanted him to fall.